You ever meet someone who makes you feel like you're trespassing in your own life? That was Layla for me. From the moment I started dating Liam, my now husband, his sister Leela treated me like I was a threat. Not a stranger to warm up to, not even a rival to grudgingly respect. No, I was the enemy. At first, I tried to brush it off, told myself she was just protective, that maybe she was one of those siblings who had a hard time letting go, especially when a younger brother starts building a life separate from the one they grew up in. I wanted to believe that, but Layla didn't just cling, she clawed. She had this polished way of undermining people. Her insults came wrapped in compliments. "Oh, Zara's so ambitious," she once told Liam's mom with a smile. "Let's just hope she remembers that family comes first." Or the time she watched me pick at a cheese platter at a family dinner and said, "I love how you're not shy about eating carbs in front of people. That's so refreshing." And the thing is, this wasn't new for Liam. I learned later that Layla had a pattern. Every single girlfriend before me, she found something off about them. One was too flashy. Another was clearly only into him because of the family business. She even once spread a rumor that a college girlfriend was secretly gold digging. That's the level we're talking about. Still, I tried to give her the benefit of the doubt until she crossed the line. A few months into dating Liam, we went to a family brunch. Everything seemed fine until Layla started bringing up his ex-girlfriends again. "Remember when you and Anna went to that jazz club downtown?" she said, like I wasn't sitting right there. "She just got your music taste, didn't she?" And then she looked at me and added, "But Zara's taste is eclectic." It didn't stop there. She would later convince Liam's parents to invite that same ex-Anna, to a holiday dinner. "She's still close to the family," Leela claimed. Right. Then she started snooping through my LinkedIn. Yes, seriously sending Liam screenshots of my coworkers with passive-aggressive commentary like, "Is this the guy Zara's always collaborating with?" Eventually, she straight up told Liam that I wasn't right for him, that I was too modern, too ambitious, and not the kind of woman who sacrifices for family. It was manipulative, deliberate, and exhausting. But the moment I knew this wasn't just jealousy, it was possession masked as protection was the night we got engaged. We were out at dinner with his family. Liam dropped to one knee in the middle of the restaurant, and I said yes, shaking, crying, the whole thing. His parents were emotional. The waitstaff clapped. It was beautiful. Except Layla. She stood up, cold, silent, and walked out. No congratulations, no hug, just gone. Later that night, Liam got a text from her. It said, "I hope you know what you're doing. She's not one of us. Not one of them." I didn't know whether to be hurt or horrified. I hadn't realized until then that Layla didn't just dislike me. She wanted to erase me. Then came the email. An actual email. 4 paragraphs of advice on how to behave as a future daughter-in-law. A rundown of everything I'd need to do if I wanted to live up to Liam's mother's legacy. The recipes I should learn. The traditions I should memorize. The expectations I'd never meet. The final line? "This family has a standard, Zara. Learn your place." I didn't respond, but I did forward it to Liam. That was the beginning of the shift. For the first time, Liam stopped making excuses for her. He confronted her, told her she was out of line, that if she wanted to be part of our lives, she had to respect me. Layla's version of an apology came 3 weeks later in the form of a one-line text. "Sorry if I overstepped, no punctuation." Then came the wedding planning. And if you think things got better, oh, they didn't. Layla insisted on helping with every decision. The venue, the flowers, the menu, and by helping, I mean criticizing. Constantly. She called my floral arrangements tacky, said the catering was hipster nonsense, and rolled her eyes in front of the vendors. I finally had enough. I told her calmly that her input was no longer welcome. Liam backed me up, which I appreciated more than I can explain. He told her directly, if she couldn't respect the wedding we were building, she didn't need to be involved. Her response? She showed up to the ceremony in a full-length white dress, nearly identical to mine. Said it was a family tradition to honor the bride. The only tradition I recognized that day was drama. We had her quietly escorted out before the vows. Liam's parents didn't argue. They were embarrassed, furious, but mostly, they were done making excuses. And honestly, so was I. That was the turning point, not just in the story, but in our lives. Because what happened after the wedding? That's when everything began to unravel. And that, dear listener, is where this story really begins. The wedding was supposed to be the end of the chaos. But if you ever dealt with a narcissist in denial, you already know they don't go down quietly. After Lila's little bridal cosplay stunt, we went no contact for a while. Not because we wanted to be dramatic, but because peace it turns out, is addictive. And for the first time in months, we had it. We took a honeymoon, a quiet cabin in the mountains, no cell service, no distractions, just us. And for a moment, it felt like maybe we'd outrun the storm. Then Noah was born. My son, our son, this tiny miracle who didn't just change our schedules, he changed the stakes. Suddenly, everything wasn't just about tolerating bad behavior anymore. It was about protecting him. So when Layla messaged Liam asking if she could come by to meet her nephew, just the two of them, I didn't hesitate. I said no. No, she couldn't. Not unsupervised. Not after everything. Not when trust was so thoroughly shattered. It wasn't even salvageable. And this time, Liam didn't hesitate either. Zara and I made that decision together, he told her. Please respect it. To my surprise, Liam's parents didn't push back either. In fact, they agreed. His mom even said, after the wedding, I understand. Still, I tried not to be cruel. Layla was allowed to visit, but always with one of us present. I was polite, distant, guarded. She didn't like that. At first, she played the victim, showed up with gifts, held Noah for 5 minutes, then cried about how everyone was shutting her out, claimed she was in therapy, claimed she was trying. I wanted to believe her, truly, and for a while I tried to. But then came the day she cornered me in the kitchen and whispered, "He doesn't really look like Liam, does he?" Just loud enough for me to hear. My blood ran cold. That's when I knew the mask was slipping again. Still, we tried to be kind, tried to keep a line open. When she had a health scare serious enough to land her in the hospital, for over a week we softened. We allowed more visits, hoping trauma might prompt reflection. But Layla didn't change, not really. She became more bitter, more restless, always complaining about how the world had wronged her, how nothing ever went her way, never once owning her part in any of it. Then out of nowhere she got married. Ethan, quiet guy, looked tired, like someone who hadn't had a good night's sleep in years. He barely spoke at the wedding, which was small, rushed, and conspicuously missing two key people, me and Liam. Apparently, I was too overbearing. My presence would have overshadowed the bride. I didn't even flinch. At that point, it was laughable. Still, Liam's parents put their foot down, said they wouldn't attend unless Layla gave us a proper apology. And Layla, faced with the loss of their support and checkbook, did what she always did, she faked contrition. We got an apology. Kind of. I'm sorry for excluding you. It wasn't personal. I was under a lot of stress. She made it sound like I had hurt her. But whatever, we let it go. Again. Ethan, bless his heart, looked like a deer caught in family crossfire. I almost pitied him. Almost. 6 months after their wedding, it all came crumbling down. They moved into our guest house temporarily. Layla claimed it was because they were renovating, but we later learned it was due to massive financial strain. Let me be clear, we didn't invite them in. Liam's parents did. We just got the fallout. Within a week, she was criticizing everything. The way we raised Noah, the food we cooked, even how loud our thermostat clicked on. She would hover near my office door when I worked late, ask who I was calling, peek at my computer screen, comment on my social media posts. One night, she asked me if Liam ever worried about all those late nights at work. I laughed it off, but my stomach tightened. 2 weeks later, at a family brunch, she snapped. In front of everyone, she loudly asked Liam, "You two have a prenup, right? I mean, with how often Zara's gone, you have to protect yourself." Liam froze. She wasn't done. "She's always on calls. Always dressed up, going to all these conferences. Don't you ever wonder?" And then, with a smirk so venomous, it still makes me shake, she said, "I mean, look at Noah. He doesn't even look like you." Dead. Silence. Then Liam exploded. "I am done," he shouted. "You are a bitter, insecure, pathetic person who cannot stand the idea that someone else is happy." The room was frozen. You could hear forks clink. "I've spent my whole life defending you," he said, "making excuses for you, but you are toxic, Layla. You ruin everything you touch. And if you ever suggest my wife is unfaithful or question the paternity of my child again, I will never speak to you again." We left. Blocked her on everything. No more visits. No more second chances. Even his parents, her own parents, cut contact. For the first time, Layla's manipulations had fully backfired. But the most terrifying part? That wasn't even the worst of it. Because what happened next was no longer just words. No longer just sabotage. It was something far darker. Something I still have nightmares about. And it all started with a smoothie. 2 months before Liam's birthday, I found out I was pregnant again. It was early, barely 2 months along, but we were thrilled. After everything we'd been through, This baby felt like hope reborn, a second chance, a new beginning. We decided to announce the news at Liam's birthday party. Just close friends and family, nothing fancy. A backyard gathering with music, food, and joy. Layla wasn't invited. We hadn't spoken to her in months. She was blocked, cut off, removed from every possible line of communication. But toxicity, doesn't always need an invitation to show up. So there we were, 2 hours into the party, when the front gate creaked open and in walked Layla, wearing pastels, holding a mason jar. You could feel the air shift, conversations trailed off. Liam stiffened beside me. His mother gasped, his father muttered something under his breath. And me, I froze. She walked right up to us, smiling, watery-eyed, like nothing had happened. I heard the family was gathering, she said, voice trembling. I just wanted to come and make peace. I know I've made mistakes. The room tensed. Liam didn't say anything at first. Neither did I. We just stood there as she reached into a canvas bag and pulled out the mason jar. I made this for you, she said, holding it out to me. A green smoothie, your favorite, right? Spinach, mango, chia, just like the one you posted on your Instagram story a few months ago. My instincts screamed. But I was raised to be polite, so I took the jar and smiled. Sort of. It was warm to the touch, slightly metallic in smell, and the texture sludgy, gritty, almost granular. My stomach churned. I pretended to sip, didn't, just held it in my hand. Then of all people, Ethan appeared, Layla's husband, pale, distant, and visibly uncomfortable. He glanced at me, then at the jar, then back at Layla. You didn't poison that, did you? He joked, forcing a laugh. Layla's smile flickered. Don't be ridiculous. But Ethan reached for the jar. Don't let it go to waste, he said, still trying to lighten the mood. I hesitated. But he took a gulp before I could say a word. It was less than 10 seconds before his face changed. He dropped the jar, clutched his abdomen, fell to his knees, eyes rolling back, foam at the corners of his mouth. And then he collapsed. Everything after that happened in chaos. Screams. Someone called 911. Liam was shouting. His mom was crying. I stood frozen, gripping the armrest of a patio chair, heart pounding, watching paramedics lift Ethan onto a stretcher. He was convulsing, barely breathing. The jar lay broken on the patio stones, and in that moment, something inside me snapped. Because I knew that drink was meant for me. And for my unborn child. At the hospital, Ethan was diagnosed with acute chemical poisoning. The substance hadn't fully metabolized yet, but the initial analysis indicated it was a common but highly toxic household compound, something you'd find under the sink, not in a smoothie. By some miracle, he survived. But the nightmare was just beginning. Back at home, I sat down with Liam and his parents and told them everything. How Layla had handed me the jar, how she mentioned my Instagram post, how I hadn't even taken a sip, and how Ethan accidentally might have just saved my life. Liam's father, grim-faced, left the room and returned minutes later with a USB stick. Their security cameras. They had footage clear, time-stamped footage of Layla in the kitchen earlier that day. She let herself in through the side gate, dug through their pantry, opened the fridge, used their blender, poured the contents into a mason jar, then washed her hands like nothing happened. We gave everything to the police. The footage, the hospital report, what was left of the smoothie, every last shred of evidence. Layla was arrested 2 days later. At first, she denied everything, claimed it was a misunderstanding, said she only added a natural detox powder she bought online, that maybe Ethan had an allergy. Maybe it was an accident. But the lab results said otherwise. The detox powder was laced with borax and an industrial solvent, something no one in their right mind would consume, let alone serve to a pregnant woman. When cornered, she changed her story. I just wanted to make her sick, she sobbed during interrogation. Not kill her. I didn't know Ethan would drink it. I didn't think. She was charged with attempted poisoning, aggravated assault, and endangering the life of an unborn child. And for once, there was no family intervention. No one bailed her out. No one argued for her innocence. Not even her husband. Ethan, upon waking up and learning everything, pressed charges without hesitation. He also filed for divorce, claimed emotional abuse, endangerment, psychological manipulation, the works. He moved out, left the city, blocked her number, but not before giving a statement to the police that sealed the case. Layla, in a final act of desperation, tried to play the pregnancy card. Yes, she was pregnant again, claimed she was carrying Ethan's child. begged her parents to post her bail for the sake of their grandchild. They refused. Told her this was the consequence of years, decades of destruction. Told her she needed help, that the best thing she could do for her unborn child was to finally face the truth. Layla pled guilty. The court sentenced her to a long-term prison sentence, citing not only the severity of the act, but the malicious intent behind it. The judge called it an act of premeditated malice driven by obsession, resentment, and delusion. And when the motive was finally revealed, it stunned even the prosecution. "I never hated Zara," Layla said at sentencing. "I just hated what she represented. She took Liam away from me. She became everything I was supposed to be. Married, respected, adored, and now she's having another child. It felt like mockery. Mockery. That's what she called our joy, our love, our family." But here's what Layla didn't understand. You can twist love, manipulate it, weaponize it, but eventually, love stops bending. And it breaks. Layla is gone now. Not in the dramatic cinematic way, no grand exit, no eerie silence, but in the very real, very permanent way that comes from consequences. Finally catching up to a person. She's serving her sentence, somewhere far from here, and I don't think of her often. But when I do, it's not with hatred. It's with grief. Because the truth is, what happened with Layla wasn't just a horror story, it was a tragedy. The slow, violent unraveling of someone who refused to change, who chose resentment over growth, delusion over healing, and destruction over love. And in the middle of all of that was me, my family, our children. Ethan divorced her, moved states, rebuilt his life one therapy session, one rented apartment at a time. We still talk occasionally, a quiet, cautious friendship forged through shared trauma. He told me once, I thought I could fix her, that if I just loved her enough, she'd change. I didn't know what to say to that, because I used to think the same thing. We all did. But you can't love the poison out of someone who insists it's medicine. As for me, I didn't bounce back. I didn't get over it. There was no cinematic montage of me running in the rain and learning to smile again. There were panic attacks, nightmares, a deep, skin-crawling fear every time someone offered me a drink I didn't make myself. I started checking food labels obsessively, refused to eat anything at restaurants unless I watched it come from the kitchen. I once had a breakdown in a coffee shop after taking a sip of a latte that tasted off. It was oat milk, that's all, but in my brain it was poison. Trauma does that. It rewires you. But I didn't let it win. I got help, real help. Therapists, support groups, meditation, trauma therapy. I started journaling again, painting, moving my body with purpose, not to look good, not to distract myself, just to feel safe in it again. Liam never left my side. Not once. He held me when I couldn't stop shaking, slept on the floor next to the bathroom when I got sick from stress, took Noah to the park when I needed silence, sat through therapy sessions just to understand what was going on in my mind. And the baby? Our daughter, Ellar. She came into the world 6 months after the arrest, healthy, glowing, loud, the kind of baby that seems to smile before she even knows why she's happy. She saved us, in ways I didn't expect. Where Noah was quiet, observant, almost cautious, Alara was bold, fierce, a giggling, kicking, wide-eyed force of joy, and somehow she pulled us back from the brink. Noah adores her. He kisses her forehead before preschool, shows her how to stack blocks, pretends to read to her even though he only knows half the alphabet. His favorite storybook is about brave big brothers protecting their little sisters from dragons. He tells me he's the dragon slayer, and I believe him. Because this family, we're made of steel now. Our circle is small, carefully guarded, but strong. Liam's parents moved closer, not because they were running from guilt, but because they wanted to build something better. They apologized genuinely for the years they enabled Layla, for not seeing it sooner, for not protecting us when they should have. They show up now. Every week, dinner with the kids, walks in the park, board games on Sunday afternoons. They're the kind of grandparents I used to wish for as a child. Present, tender, apologetic, but not in a performative way, in a way that makes you believe people can change. Even when it's late, even when it hurts. Sarah's parents, my parents, were a rock through it all. They helped install security cameras after the incident, stayed with us through the trial, sat next to me in the courtroom when Layla was sentenced. My mother once said, "The best revenge is a life so beautiful it makes their bitterness irrelevant." I didn't understand that at first, but now I do, because we have peace. Hard-won, earned. Not perfect, but real. And one day, when our children are older, when Noah starts to ask real questions, we will tell them the truth. Not every horrifying detail, not every betrayal, but enough. Enough to teach them what boundaries look like, what toxicity smells like, what love is not. Well, teach them that family isn't defined by DNA, but by loyalty, kindness, safety. And well, tell them what happened not to scare them, but to arm them. Because the best thing we can do for our children is not just protect them, but prepare them. And here's what I've learned. You can be the bigger person again and again. You can give grace, extend olive branches, offer space to grow. But when someone looks at your happiness and sees a threat, when someone looks at your family and sees a battlefield, when someone hands you a glass that could have ended your life and calls it love, that's when you stop bending. You draw the line, and you never, ever look back. If you're still here, thank you. This wasn't just a story about a toxic sister-in-law. This was about what happens when you finally say enough, when you build boundaries so strong, even blood can't breach them. Because sometimes the villains aren't strangers. They're people who once hugged you at Christmas. And sometimes the happiest endings aren't loud. They're quiet, peaceful, safe, exactly the way they should be.